G'day guys, Dane here from Clarkey's NRL column, joined by my co-host Ozza from NRL In My Opinion. This is the Set of Six podcast, the #1 rugby league podcast in the world. That's not scientifically proven, that's just my opinion. Oliver, how are you this afternoon, or I should say tonight?
Oh, I am doing great. I'm nice and refreshed. Got a nice water bottle here with me. How are you going, champion?
Yeah, very good. And of course, no one at home would know anything as to what that water bottle is. But something you guys should know at home is you have the chance to win a mini glass clock, official NRL supporter. We're going to give away 2 on this video, guys. So here's an example here of the Parramatta Eels one. And of course, the other one was the West Tigers. And if you win the Eels one, guys, you also get a wooden spoon with that one. Of course, the wooden spoon that was made helped to make my spaghetti tonight, which was it was good spaghetti. I'm happy to confirm that whilst we're on the record. But yeah, guys, all you got to do to win one of these bad boys, just drop a comment, tell us who you're cheering for the 2019 season. We're going to go over 6 topics tonight, guys. We're going to go over the recent stand-downs by the NRL. We're going to go over some of the punishments given. We're going to go over the rumours for the week and sort of touch on where they're at, whether they're true, false, what's going on there. Then we're going to go over last weekend's trial results. We're going to talk about our top 5 breakout players. We're going to talk about the wild card final series. And then we're going to do some fan Q&As because, of course, you guys know we run it on the last tackle, always here on the Set of Six podcast. So, Ozza, are you with me?
Yeah, but quickly before we start, a big congratulations to you, my friend. 100,000 likes across all social media. I knew you weren't going to plug it in the end. I had to get in there. Congratulations, mate. Great stuff.
You know what? I really do appreciate it, man. I've worked really hard for a long time, and I think I deserve a trophy of some sort for my achievement. Maybe this wooden spoon can cook me some pretty good spaghetti tomorrow night. So let's kick it off. Kickoff is underway, guys. Jack DeBellin, Dylan Walker, both officially stood down by the NRL until their court case is resolved. Now, of course, Ozza, this comes from the NRL's new policies. For a serious criminal offence that would exceed an 11-year jail sentence if found guilty, you are instantly stood down. For a minor criminal offence that would warrant a jail sentence if guilty of 11 years or under, it is up to your CEO's discretion. Okay, now, we must say right now, guys, these are only policies at this stage. They are not official rules. The NRL is in the process of making them official. While stood down, you will receive pay and be entitled to train with your team. Obviously, no rep footy, and your team can apply for salary cap relief. And that is touched on by the NRL, and that'll be reviewed on a case-by-case basis. So let's go back to the top. Jack DeBellin and Dylan Walker, fair or not fair?
Well, they're trying to follow the rules that they've put in place, which is something that the NRL has not done for the past few years. So for me, it's fair in the sense that hopefully the NRL has a bit more consistency from now. I know I'm sort of going away from the actual issues here of Jack DeBellin and Dylan Walker, but in a general sense, it is refreshing to see the NRL say something and then act on it in this situation here. So, look, I'm going to say fair at the moment. And as we've discussed on here before, it becomes a great distraction for players if they're playing while they have a court case going on or something big like that. So, you know, maybe it's for the best for not only the NRL's image, but for the players themselves as well. So I'm going to say fair, even though we know that Jack DeBellin is looking to get this sort of ruling overruled so he can play possibly in round 1. I think we find out tomorrow for sure.
Okay, so let's touch on the media side of things, because for me, I don't think this is fair from a personal I guess point of view. Sorry, because there's no other job in the world where you are stood down from your workplace, or there's not many where you're officially stood down. I suppose if we only see this when you are a sort of public figure or well-known / celebrity, whatever. So I think personally, this is unfair via Australian law, because you are innocent until proven guilty. However, I think as a broader image and as far as the NRL is concerned, this is not only fair but good for the game. Because the game's reputation has been damaged, and in some ways, I seriously believe it is at stake. I honestly believe the NRL is probably only, let's go 1 to 2 scandals or controversies away from major sponsors walking away from the game. Yeah. I think by issuing these harsh penalties, Ozza, no media outlet is going to put on the news that night, NRL was too hard on, alleged rapist Jack DeBellin, because we know they love using those words and they love having that backstory in their pocket. They're not going to do that. So by coming out and, giving these harsher penalties, it gets us out of the view from the media in some ways, and it doesn't give them an opportunity to drag our game further down. So I think it is good in that respect. We'll move on now to some other sort of punishments that were handed down this week, guys. So West Tigers prop Zane Musgrove, the NRL have confirmed until his court case is resolved. He will not be officially registered. He has pleaded not guilty. West Tigers former CEO Justin Pascoe has been stood down for 6 months. He was originally stood down. That will stand. He tried to fight it. The club's been issued a $375,000 fine, which is very disappointing for West Tigers. I believe last year was the first year they turned profit in a long time.
Oh yeah, I think they were they one of the teams that was run by the NRL a couple of years ago. I think it might have been the Dragons, Knights, Titans, and maybe the Tigers that the NRL sort of had to take control of. So that was great for the Tigers, but obviously now that's...
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, your first CEO that gets you back in the green, and now he's gone. And they've also had $670,000 reduced from their salary cap, guys. As a result, they will need to shed, we're hearing, at least one mid-tier player before the June 30 deadline. Dylan Napa gets fined 10% of his salary for, in my opinion, videos that were out of his control. He maintains he did not know he was being filmed, so I don't see what he's done wrong here to get that, but we'll touch on that later. And Scott Bolton has received a 5% fine of his annual salary, 10 weeks suspension, but he can have that 5% number reduced if he addresses senior members from every single NRL club during Magic Round. Let's go to Scotty Bolton first, Ozza. Is this fair, or is this borderline in some ways, I guess, harassment? Humiliate. It's got, to me, that's public humiliation in some ways. He has to speak to every single club. He knows he's stuffed up because he pled guilty and he's been punished with 10 weeks and 5% of his salary. Why are you humiliating him further?
It's just adding on, isn't it? I think they are trying to set a precedent here, the NRL, and they're trying to say, look, this is what could happen. But for me, it's a bit too trivial, a bit too far. It's like the Simpsons episode where they get home. I think it's a Simpsons episode. They get home and they're stripped down into the nude. They put a big boulder around his ankle and he's got to walk down the road or something. You know what I mean? It's exactly like that. It's something trivial. It's not a real punishment. You know what I mean? It's humiliation. It's not a punishment.
I will say, if Scotty Bolton does want to do this, that's something I respect a lot. Scotty speaking out against, obviously, your mistakes and helping others learn from your, previous poor lack of judgment. So if he has chosen to address this with NRL senior leaders, I think that is a great sign of leadership by himself and a real show that he has learned from his mistakes. We'll go on to the next one. Zane Musgrove won't be registered until it's resolved. No surprises there for me. Any from you?
Not really.
Yeah, and again for the Justin Pascoe, the suspension standing. I don't think the suspension's fair, but I'm not entirely surprised it wasn't overturned. No arguments there, I'm assuming, from yourself?
No.
And finally, probably the most controversial of them all, Dylan Napa, 10% of his annual salary for videos that were leaked to the internet, invasion of his privacy. Can I actually just stop right now, Ozza? And I want you to give a little bit of a round of applause with me, and I'll tell you why after. Just give a little clap. NRL memes is done. Gone. Yeah, thank God. Thank God. Anyone that is willing to put Facebook likes, comments, shares over the health and well-being of a certain individual, a certain person's family. How can you value an internet likes over someone's well-being? I was really concerned for Napa during that whole thing, for fears that, he may have potentially harmed himself in some sort of way, because it would have been so difficult for himself. But let's get back onto his fine. 10% of his annual salary. I'm not sure how much he's on there at the Dogs, but I have to imagine that's going to be upwards of $50,000 at least.
Yeah.
Is that fair to you?
Look, not really, but it could be a lot worse. I thought it'd be a lot worse. He's not missing any game time, right? I'm sorry, there's so many scandals, I've got to get him straight, right? It's good that he's not missing any game time. If he was missing game time, that would have been absolutely ludicrous. So I'm glad that he's gotten out of that. However, realistically, look, he shouldn't be getting punished at all. I know it paints the game in a bad light or whatever, but it's the exact same as Adam Elliott getting into the nude at the Bulldogs end of year Mad Monday celebration. There was a photographer that climbed up into a tree to take a photo inside a room, in a private function. It's like that. It's uncalled for. It just shows how the media's sort of taken a turn as well, and how that sort of influences these what's the word I'm looking for? These influences these judgments, I guess, made on these players, I guess you could say, because, we've had the Tyrone May scandal come in as well, and I'm sorry to bring that up, but, people are painting that sort of in the same light as Dylan Napa. Tyrone May is being charged with filming young people, without their knowledge. That isn't what Dylan Napa did. Dylan Napa is a victim of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
yeah, I think the reason in the end the NRL decided to go with a fine of his salary and not a fine against a club or a suspension was because they were so old. Realistically, the Roosters are the ones that should suffer, but you can't fine a player, a club that doesn't own the player anymore. Otherwise, we'd be bringing stuff up from 10 years ago off our old friggin' Blackberries and Nokia 6300s. I don't know if that's legit or not. I had a Nokia 6300 though. What phone did you used to rock?
Well, it wasn't a Nokia. It was a Samsung, but it wasn't a touch screen. It was a Samsung. God knows what.
Very cool. What about the web sliders? Did you ever remember those ones? The ones where you had the full keyboard, you swiped it up, and you had a full...
Oh, you swiped it out. I never had one, but I knew people that did. Yeah.
Yeah, my best friend had one. I was actually really jealous of him. Let's move on to Tackle 2, guys. We're going to go over all the rumours that were uploaded by either Oliver or myself this week. The reason we do this is because we want to be accountable with you guys. We understand that in the mainstream media, Channel 9 can put out a report, and this is not suggesting Channel 9 has done this. This is just, an example. Yep. A mainstream media outlet can put out a rumour, and then they'll never touch on it again if it doesn't prove true. They'll never hold themselves to any level of accountability. We don't want that sort of reputation. So we'll go first. Ace Gutters sponsoring the Cronulla Sharks. This one was something I put up. And how I actually knew this was I received, strangely, 2 inboxes from workers who are employed by that company. And they said that the Cronulla Sharks CEO is touring with Wade Graham and a couple NRL women players. I received the first one, Ozza, and I thought, someone trolling maybe.
Yep.
But then when you get 2 from the same day, so I put it up as a loose rumor with a loose source. It then proved to be true, making me the first person in Australia to report that. So another round of applause. Why not? So that's proved true, guys. They will sponsor the Cronulla Sharks front of jersey. Exciting times ahead for the Sharks. And here's a story of that one, Ozza. Do you remember the Instagram page Sharks Zone?
Yes, I do.
Well, that got shut down.
It got shut down?
Yeah. So what he did was... He took the information from my page. He messaged me and I said, yeah, man, it looks like it's going to go ahead and stuff. He photoshopped it on the front of an official Sharks jersey with Paul Gallen wearing it. Yeah. And then he put his logo in the top right. And I said to him, look, one, you haven't credited me, which is probably the least of your worries right now, because you can't do that. You can't put your logo over images that are copyrighted. and he reckoned, oh, no, it's okay. And then he messaged me, I'm freaking out. The Cronulla Sharks CEO is calling me. And then his page got removed the next day because he messaged me off his second account asking for a shout out or something. And I was like, look, don't say I didn't tell you. Ace Guarders will sponsor the Sharks, guys. That is a true story. Sharks only being shut down is also, unfortunately, a true story. Sam Cassiano to the St. George Illawarra Dragons. We've got a question mark there, guys. We're not sure on how this one plays out, but I have to ask Ozza, is this a good signing for the Dragons, or should they be showing a sign of faith in their younger talents, such as Jacob Host, and in particular, NRL Indigenous All-Star Josh Kerr?
They definitely should be putting faith into these young players, especially as well with Sam Cassiano. No disrespect to Sam, but mate, you're a bit inconsistent at times, aren't you? I mean, at Melbourne, under that structure, he can play really well and they can get some consistency out of him. I believe that, and definitely the role he's in. At the Dragons, I don't think he gets that encouragement. We know how the Melbourne Storm setup is. Any player that would go to the Melbourne Storm would be, encouraged to a very big level to play their best. Yeah, definitely. Look, there's not much more I can say. Is that they should be, putting faith into these young players, 100%, no doubt. And if they were looking for someone to maybe play ahead of those guys, I don't think Sam Cassiano is the one. Even if they did sign Cassiano, he might not be the first string.
Yeah, I agree.
As you said, yeah.
I agree. You touched on Melbourne being such a professional system there, and most players that go there do find larger levels of success than they do at previous clubs. But it didn't work out for Big Sam, did it? And I think I've found out the reason. Sam Cassiano made a career of being a monster front row forward that weighed 130 kilograms, that came on for 20 minutes and did absolute work and mayhem.
Yeah.
Craig Bellamy made him lose his biggest asset, which was his weight. He made him drop it all and he tried to turn him into a 60-minute prop. And that's not Sam Cassiano's game. I'd imagine that's never been Sam Cassiano's game. And it, to me, you can't take a professional footballer who's played a certain way for so many years and transform them. Certainly, there are exceptions to that. Luke Lewis is one of them that comes straight to my mind. Winger into the back row, marvelous career. But typically, you have to agree, Ozza, it's not very often we see an NRL player transformed so heavily, and especially over one season, and then they find success. I'll point to Darren Lockyer as my example, guys. Possibly one of the greatest to ever play, a future immortal. He went from two similar positions, fullback to 5'8", and even he struggled. I just think this was far too big of a change for Big Sam. Any arguments from you?
Not really, but you got to add age into it as well. Darren Lockyer still had a few years left in his career when he obviously made that transition to 5'8" as well. So it's about when you do it. You've got to sort of do it not too early on, but relatively early on. For example, we'll have to see with Kalen Ponga this year as well. With that transition, if that works out, maybe it's a bit too early. Maybe they've jumped the gun a bit, but I don't know. It's sort of a thing where you can't do it too early, but you can't leave it too late.
Yeah, I agree. I just had a thought. I want to show actually everyone the signed jerseys behind me, guys. There they all are. You can see a little Titans thing. You can see a Clarkey's column and Manasseh Fa'ainu. I actually didn't know how to say that name. I thought it was Manasseh Fa'ainu, but it's Manasseh Fa'ainu. Manly's hooker. He got me a 2019 Manly jersey fully signed, so that's going to be in the corner for the next video. That was pretty random. But the Dragons aren't done with Sam Cassiano. The rumours continue. Ava Siamungafanai could be the man to make way for the Cronulla Sharks to get under the salary cap again. Of course, they were issued a penalty. I'll get that exact figure for you guys in a moment. But do you agree, again, the Dragons necessarily shouldn't be chasing Siamungafanai, especially when he goes to the wrong end of the footy field?
Look,
I can't believe that. Can you actually believe that happened? It's very... I don't get it. Well, how did he not look at his team all going the other way and seeing the other team and not once be like, maybe I'm on the wrong side? Just quickly, guys. So, Daily Telegraph reported the Sharks have been hit with a $250,000 fine and $350,000 removed from their salary cap. So, Siamungafanai, Dragons, good or bad?
bad. The Dragons don't need to sign anyone at all.
Yeah, I agree. So let's go to the UK side that's after him. Leeds Rhinos. He would join former NRL stars Conrad Hurrell and Trent Merrin. Is that a better landing spot for Siamungafanai?
I mean, Leeds needs players right now. I actually haven't, watched too much Super League the past couple of weeks, but I know that they just lost to, I think it was Salford, who I don't know if they're doing too well either. And Leeds are in a bit of trouble, so any help that they can get, I mean, bring him in. He'll add. Well, we don't know if he'll add something. Leeds haven't been the best the past couple of years, so
well, he'll add experience if nothing else.
Exactly. But they do have experience already. You could say in Trent Merrin.
Yeah,
they've already got someone in that mould.
Well, 118 games of NRL experience for me, and certainly if you watch my interview with Willie Tonga, he didn't have the best things to say about the Super League. So I'm thinking 118 games of NRL experience is probably worth, I would say, about 200 of Super League. So I think if he was to land somewhere, I think a multi-year deal in the UK is probably the best spot for Siamungafanai, as he really attempts to establish himself as a regular first grader, something he has struggled with over the course of his career. And what about Cam McInnes to the Parramatta Eels? Personally, I'm dismissing this one. I think it's pure rubbish. I don't see it happening. I don't see any situation where McInnes is released from his contract. And I did put up 2 theories in a column. Let me know what you think of these. So I think 2 things have happened here. I think this is what I think is most likely. The Parramatta Eels were trying to play games with Isaac Luke's management. By creating this fake rumour, I think the Eels thought maybe Luke will feel pressured, like, crap, I need to take this spot because it's going to go soon. Otherwise, they really want a hooker. Obviously, that didn't work. Now, Warriors CEOs confirmed Luke will remain there. Or what else? What else I think could have happened here is Channel 7 were tipped off that a St. George Illawarra Dragons hooker could be on the way to Para. And I think they might have been talking about Reece Robson, who's, of course, a Prime Minister's 13 representative, and a lot of people believe he's ready for NRL. I think that one of those 2 have occurred. Can you think of any other situation where the Dragons would release Cam McInnes?
Maybe if he asked for his release, but I don't see why he'd be asking for it.
Yeah, neither. He played finals footy last year, and he's in a team that's very likely to play finals footy again, guys. So there's a question mark there, but we're both putting an X. It's a no deal from Clarkey and Ozza. Isaac Luke to the Eels, guys. Give me another X.
Big D-Generation X.
Yes. Which one of us would be Triple H, just out of curiosity?
Which one of us?
Yeah.
Ooh. I don't know.
Who did you prefer out of the 2? Because I got to admit, I was always a big Shawn Michaels fan.
Yeah, Shawn HBK was better. I mean, he was more of the leader. Triple H, he was there, but he a bit more in the background. HBK, 100%. The Heartbreak Kid.
Yeah, I used to always
think of myself.
I used to always do his kicks and stuff on my teddies, and but then again, I used to always come out and like spit the water like Triple H does.
Yeah.
How's this for an embarrassing story? So I was wrestling my teddies on the trampoline when I was in maybe year 6 or 7, and full in my undies, doing like the wrestle moves on them, commentating it as I do it. And a kid from my school, I lived on a dirt road in the middle of nowhere. A kid from my school, and I went to a school with like 30 kids per grade. A kid in my class drove up my road, and in front of everyone on Monday, he's like, Dane, I saw you wrestling teddies in your undies on the weekend. I was like, no, I don't like wrestling. But yeah, I full got busted having a bit of a wrestle match, I suppose. And Kyle Flanagan to the Sydney Roosters. I don't see that happening either. Certainly from the quotes he put out earlier tonight, which I will grab for you guys now. It makes it seem like he's pretty well committed to the Sharks. That he's talking in regards to taking the halfback spot here. I'm not going to wait around and wait for my turn to come. I'm going to go and get it myself. 100% I want that jersey. He then said, there was no hesitation talking in regards to re-signing with the Sharks. I want to play first grade here. There was interest out there, but I want to be a good player at the Sharks and bring success to the club. So I think by that quote, we can rule out that rumour. Also, Oliver, I'm sure you'd have to agree.
Yeah, but he is signing with Monday Night Raw, is what I'm hearing, to form a tag team with Daniel Vito. So
there we go. That's the real rumour the rugby league fans want to hear. Now, I'm going to have to go to you for that tackle 3 here because I was busy on Saturday night, guys. I didn't get a chance to watch the trials, unfortunately. So huge shout out to Oliver for taking over my page and putting them up there. And I'm just looking at your Instagram now. I think you grew maybe 150, 200-ish.
200, but probably a bit under 200. So helped out a lot. Also, guys, if you haven't followed the Instagram, I'm almost at 1,000 now. So it would mean a lot if you could like the Instagram.
100%. Let's get there, guys. Let's start with the first game. Warriors beating the Tigers 26-16. What did you like from that game? What didn't you like? Do you have any sort of particular match comments there?
Yeah, so I watched a bit of this game. The Warriors, their edge players, so their centers and wingers, did look good. And I copped a little bit of flack. I think it was on your page for saying this, but I said, I hope the Warriors don't rely on their edge play too much in 2019 because it seemed that their answer for everything was to give the ball to the centers and wingers. And granted, it paid off this game. I just hope that this isn't a mentality that they take into the regular season games because they will eventually get found out. 100% they'll get found out. And look, before that game, though, I was certain that Adam Kieran would be playing round one for the Warriors. However, after this game, him and Harris Tavita are sort of equal for me. They did play together for a little while during this game. However, they both look decent. So I've
a little bit of a headache there for Stephen Kearney. Our next game was the Cronulla Sharks versus the Newcastle Knights. 30-6. The Sharks get up. Any thoughts on that match? Any match comments from yourself?
The Cronulla forward pack just looked really good in attack. Look, each time one of them got the ball, they seemed to have at least break one tackle before going to around, or at least making a decent amount of meters. So I think their forward pack is going to look very good in 2019, but I think we sort of thought that anyway, and that just sort of proves it.
Yeah, absolutely. Our next game was, well, I suppose by the team names, it was an upset. But when you consider the team, Roosters fielded, no real upset there. 38-20, the Sea Eagles upset the reigning premiers. Match comments from yourself?
Yeah, this was the one that I probably caught the least of, so I can't comment on it too much. Look, it's sort of good signs for Manly, but as you said, I think it was 3 first-grade players that played for the Roosters, and I couldn't even tell you who it was. That was probably the game that I did see the least of. But I think the main takeaway for me is Ryan Eckford getting a shot to commentate, of course, someone that you interviewed, I think it was a couple of days ago. Great interview. Go check that out, guys, on Clarkey's NRL column. But it's great to see a good story in the NRL for a change. So that's going to be my main takeaway from that one.
Yeah, I believe no players from their grand final side played. And isn't it strange? We were talking about last week. We said with Manly's current injury concerns, do they field a full-strength side for this trial or do they not? And we couldn't come to a yes or no, but we did make our decision based off what side the Roosters fields.
Yeah.
And obviously Des chose not to match that. No injuries came out of that game, so it did pay off for him. What about this one? And this is a bit of a crazy one because I remember saying to you, the Panthers scored 38 points against the Rabbitohs in terrible conditions. I told you they'll put at least 50 on the Eels.
Yep.
And they put 0 on the Eels. In fact, the Eels won 20-0. Match comments from yourself?
Match comments from me is that when I was flicking back and forth, whenever I would see the Penrith game, Penrith did not look like winning at all. They looked like two completely different sides. At one point, Penrith had the ball on the line, and Penrith have not always had the best goal line attack. They usually score from breaks or at least 20 metres out. They were on the line. They were about to score. Knock on, Parramatta took the ball downfield. But Penrith just looked really leaky for me, especially just a bad performance by the Panthers. I know that we should be praising Parramatta, a good win for them. However, I think for me, it was more a bad performance by Penrith. So that's a little bit of worrying sign for one of the teams I have making the grand final this year.
And if you do go for Parra, don't take that to heart. Just comment "Go Eels" and you could win this. One thing I did mention at the start is you can win any team. I've got a lot of teams out the back, so just because I've shown the Tigers and the Eels, you can win anyone. This is a game I caught a little bit of. The Brisbane Broncos defeat the 2019 Premiers. The Gold Coast Titans 25-22. I caught a bit of this game, but by this stage I had quite a few red cordials, of course, at the back of my house with a lot of friends over. But But I have to be a little bit concerned by Ash Taylor's defense. I feel like, especially
leaky,
Alex Glenn in particular, had a field day running the short balls off him.
He scored a hat-trick. How often does a big man score a hat-trick in the NRL?
Yeah, and I will say for Ash, he did recently have shoulder surgery. I've actually had the same shoulder surgery as him. You get like these little cuts in 3 different areas, and they just cut out the little bits. So he had that surgery. I think it's called, I'm not going to even try to go into it, what it's called, but pretty much you get like a little telescope put in and certain areas repaired and stuff. So I think his defense might have been a little bit rusty as a result of that. So I will give him a pass, and hopefully there's some improvement. Very good comeback from behind win for the Broncos. Let's go to the Charity Shield. Another one you tipped correctly and I tipped incorrectly. 36-24, the Rabbitohs get up against the Dragons. Match comments from yourself?
Corey Allen
hat-trick
is going to be an immortal one day. It was amazing. And just to add as well, Zach Lomax did look good at times as well for the Dragons. I've got to say, it was very entertaining seeing them go up against each other on the wing. So, I do want to see Corey Allen eventually play fullback. But I mean, if he's in a game against Zach Lomax, I'd love to see him on the wing. A hat-trick. Look, we don't know much about Corey Allen. Well, there's a question coming on later where I will address Corey Allen a bit more, so I don't want to go too much into it yet, but he seems like the real deal. I know Wayne Bennett said he's not going to start him in round 1. Well, lucky there's still 24 other rounds where he can play him, because I think this kid needs... Well, this kid, he's older than me. This guy needs a real crack.
Yeah, no arguments from me at all. I'm really liking what I'm seeing out of Corey Allen. And I think, if anything, scoring that hat-trick on the wing showed a little bit of versatility in his game, where otherwise we thought he was primarily a fullback. So I can't, I can't speak highly enough of Corey. And I think scoring the hat-trick on the wing definitely did his chances of making his NRL debut. Didn't do him any harm, that's for certain. Our last game is the North Queensland Cowboys in Mackay, I believe, defeat the Melbourne Storm. Storm only score 6 points in that game. Pretty low scoring affair. Match comments from yourself?
Again, this is one that I didn't catch a lot of. I think the kickoff might have been delayed. I think it was meant to kick off at about 7, but I think there might have been, some weather issues up there. So I ended up not watching a lot of this one as well. A little bit of a surprising result, seeing the Cowboys get the win. I did think Melbourne would probably still win, but I know you're going to touch on Melbourne a bit later, so I don't want to get too much into their squad. Definitely promising signs for the Cowboys, though. A great, it's great whenever you beat the Melbourne Storm, no matter what. It just shows a bit of intent. It shows maybe you could do something. But I hope the Cowboys don't do anything, because otherwise I'm going to look like the world's biggest idiot come the end of the season. So, please don't play too well, North Queensland, please.
You certainly have tipped against them, guys. That wraps up our third tackle, guys. That was the results from the trial game. Sorry we couldn't provide an in-depth analysis on them. Obviously, with the games all overlapping, it does make it very hard to report on effectively, especially when one half of the podcast is... as I said before, on the red cordials. Let's move to our fourth tackle. Top 5 breakout players for 2019. Now, I think the way we'll do this, Ozza, I'll say one, you say one, and we'll go through until we've ticked off 5 each. You happy with that?
Beautiful.
Beautiful, because you're not going to be happy. I'm going to steal your man straight away. Corey Allen, guys, is going to be a breakout star of 2019. So much so, the man... to the end of this pen that way has tipped him for Rookie of the Year. I think Corey Allen is special, and as I touched on earlier, I think scoring a hat-trick on the wing did him a world of good in terms of his opportunities for being selected. I got an itchy leg for the NRL South Sydney Rabbitohs side, and I think it's only a matter of, it's no longer a question of if Corey Allen debuts, it's when.
Yep.
He's proven he's good enough, guys, and I think he belongs. In fact, he was the first person to ever play for the Australian Prime Minister 13 without playing a game of NRL before, which shows ScoMo, who's a big footy fan. He knows his footy. He sees something in Corey Allen that we both see. We'll move on to your man.
Yep, so I had Corey Allen as well. So I'm going to say Corey Allen as well for my first. However, I'm not going to get into too much detail till a bit later on, a little bit of foreshadowing there.
Make sure you stick around. We'll know if you click off, and then this wooden spoon will be coming at your head as a projectile, potentially. Andrew Fafita, sorry, David Fafita. Maybe I'm the one that's copped a few too many wooden spoon hits in the head there. David Fafita from the Brisbane Broncos. I really like what I've seen out of this kid. He's come out and said Origin is my goal for 2019. And you know what? I'm going to put a bold statement out right now. I believe him. I think he debuts for State of Origin this year.
Maybe.
Because name me one game where we've sat there and gone, you could tell David Fafita was inexperienced tonight. You could tell Fafita is new to the NRL. You can tell Fafita's only 18 years old. We've never said that about him, though.
No, we haven't. I don't know.
I think
it's Origin.
It is hard to label him a breakout player when we all know his name. We all know how good he is already. But I think he makes his Origin debut this year. Queensland's back row, Matt Gillette, Gavin Cooper. There's question marks there. Cohen Hess, we've seen his form fall off. There's a question mark there. The only back row that's guaranteed a spot for Queensland this year, in my opinion, is Felice Kafusi. And I also think with competitions at the spot at the Brisbane Broncos, Dave Fafita is going to be very inspired and put in some really inspiring performances week in, week out to ensure he keeps that jersey. So he's one of my breakout players.
So you know how you stole my guy before?
You're not. You're going to steal my guy.
I think so. Bronson Xerri from the Cronulla Sharks. I know you've had big raps on him. Yeah, you know what? I'll be fair. I'm not going to touch on him too much. You can. I think he's sort of in the same situation as Corey Allen this year, where it's not a matter of if he's going to debut. It's more when. Mm-hmm. He should get a good amount of first grade this year. So, yeah, Bronson Xerri. Look, I'm going to let you, when you want to touch on him, do.
Yeah, I'll jump straight on to Xerri next because he is on my thing. I was lucky enough to meet Bronson at the Gallen vs. Hopewadi fight. Cool guy, really cool guy. I just think anytime a 17-year-old scores a hat-trick on debut in the New South Wales Cup, instantly eyes go towards him. Is this kid the real deal? Is this a hype job? Etc. etc. The fans are going to talk about it, whether it's a positive or a negative there. And I certainly think that during the trials, he's proven that he's NRL ready. It's just a matter of, and as you said, it's a matter of when, not if, because he is stuck behind former Australian representative centres Dugan and Josh Morris, and obviously both are elite players. You don't put a rookie over the top of them. But it's, certainly interesting times do lie ahead with Cronulla, and I do think if I'm at the top of that club, I'm looking to move on an outside back as opposed to a forward, especially with a lot of my forwards, or mainly Gallen in particular, set to retire. I want to hang on to the core of my forward pack as best as I can, and I almost think moving on a player like Sasai Feki, I don't think Bronson Xerri would look completely out of place there on the wing. However, I prefer to see Xerri in the centre with Josh Dugan outside him there. But yeah, he's a breakout star. I'll continue because I'm on to my fourth now. Moeki Fotuaika from the Gold Coast Titans. A little bit of bias here, guys. I did write a column on this, and I want to read it because I really want to properly represent this story. Mo, as we call him at the Titans, is a very special talent. Not many props debut at age 18 in the NRL. I'm going to pause there. How much do we hear about Payne Haas making his debut at 18? It was everywhere, right?
Yep.
Most people don't even know who Mo is.
Do you want to know why? It's because of the jersey he's wearing. It's because no one cares about the Titans until we win the premiership this year.
Exactly. And I really like how you finished that sentence. Still only 19 years old, Mo has played 16 games of NRL. That's more than Payne Haas. Again, there's no mentions there. He is the younger brother of Moses Fotuaika, who sadly took his life in 2013 after an injury. He was on the verge of making his NRL debut at the time. Obviously, a very tragic situation for his family. At the same time, Mo started going to the Keeborough Park State High School, guys. He had to wake up at 3 a.m. every morning just to get to school. The days where he missed going to school, he had to help his father pick fruit for 14 plus hours a day, just so his family could put food on the table. He's got a tackle efficiency of over 92%. In my eyes, he needs to be spoken about more as you said, can you think of any other reasons besides he plays for the Titans and we're not necessarily a large club that the media are willing to talk about?
Yeah, 100%, and especially with Payne Haas, he plays for the Broncos, who are the close side to the Titans, and they're a lot bigger. There's not much more I can say on that other than, from what you've said, the NRL should hand him the premiership right now.
Yeah, he's an they should hand the Titans the premiership. That's not in question here. And neither is Mo's talent and skill. He's an absolute legend. We'll go over to you for your fourth player.
Okie dokie. Wait, fourth? I'm on my third, but that's okay. That's all right. I'll go to it. I'll just knock out two in a row here.
Sweet.
All right. Next, Jesse Ramian at Newcastle. I think he's a bit more of a certainty for first grade than my other two picks, Bronson Xerri and Corey Allen. Look, he's one of the guys that's put out the intent that he wants to play Origin this year, as well as Zach Lomax. So I like intent. So it should mean that he's in for a really good season. I've actually got him as centre of the year. That, yes, I know it's a bit of an out there pick, and you've got to be a bit out there with your pick sometimes. I reckon if he plays, he gets that. I think he ends up being one of the first string centres. I think he plays well, and I think he cements his spot in that Newcastle Knights side. There's not much more I can say on Jesse Ramian. I will go on to my fourth player now, who we do know now, under unfortunate circumstances, will be playing first grade. Of course, that's Jerome Hughes, with Scott Drinkwater unfortunately getting injured. Yeah. However, I had Jerome Hughes starting anyway, although past couple of weeks there has been more talks about Scott Drinkwater. Jerome Hughes, he's obviously learnt under one of the best players to ever play the game. I don't care whether you like him or not, Billy Slater, for the past couple of years. He's worked under Craig Bellamy as well. As we said, that Melbourne Storm system. He's young. He's been bred into that system. He's got a great playing group around him. So I really think, look, although I've got Melbourne dropping off a bit personally, and I know you'll get onto Melbourne more soon, I think individually he might have a really good year.
Yeah. Good shout there. Certainly no arguments from me. And I'll go on to my fifth and final, guys. Dylan Brown from the Parramatta Reels. Now, this is a kid that's passed out from exhaustion, I believe, 2 times this preseason. We hear the term training the house down, thrown around like candy on Halloween when it's an NRL preseason. But the truth is, this kid seems to be the real deal. Certainly, we can't overstate this fact, guys. How many rookies that are yet to debut in the NRL get an official club statement released when they're approached by another NRL club? I can tell you how many. Probably, I can't think of any but Dylan Brown. Because the fact is, juniors and rookies move around all the time, club to club. They're approached, whatever, but there's no statements. There's nothing about them because we simply don't know who they are yet. But the Eels value this guy so much, they instantly put out a statement and said, Warriors, hands off. And then I'm looking to the Warriors and how they approached him. The Warriors didn't lose a rookie halfback. They weren't looking to replace a rookie halfback with a rookie halfback. They were looking to replace the best New Zealand halfback to ever play our game. They were looking to replace a former Golden Boot winner, best player in the world, Shaun Johnson, with this rookie.
Yeah.
Brad Arthur's got praise for him. Brad Arthur has said he'll be there round 1. Club captain Clint Gutherson has spoken about how great he is at steering around the team, etc. I think something extremely crazy needs to happen for us to not see Dylan Brown make his NRL debut in round 1. Yep. And I believe you've got one more player to go.
Yep. He's Dylan Brown of the Parramatta Eels. Can't really expand much. You pretty much summed it all up there. Although I will say that the last time that a club statement was put out about a rookie moving clubs, I believe it was about me when I moved from the Brothers to Cambridge Park a few years ago. But other than that, I mean...
Yeah, I do remember covering that story. Certainly there was a lot of speculation at the time.
I was 11.
As to what Ozza from NRL, in my opinion, was... what his next move was, essentially. Let's move on to the fifth tackle, guys. Wild card finals... I guess, thought/idea by the NRL guys. So I'll break it down essentially. I'm sure you've all read into the finer detail. Up to 10th can play finals football. I'll say it again. Up to 10th can play finals football. So
11, 12.
under last year's ladder, the Gold Coast Titans, we were 2 wins, I believe, off being in finals football. The Raiders and the Tigers would have both played finals football. The Cowboys would have been 2 or 3 wins off finals football also. And the Eels would have only been 4 or 5 wins off finals football. I'm sure I'm sort of painting the picture here, guys, but in case I haven't, I've got another statistic to throw at you because that's what I like to do. 0.625% chance. That is a greater than half chance to play finals football. Ozza, over to you. Name me one other promotion in the world where you have a greater than half chance of featuring in the finals. I don't believe there is one.
I know one. There is one. There would be the A-League. They've got 10 teams. I think there's 6 teams in the finals.
Right. Okay, but no one cares about soccer. No. AFL have 18, 8 progress. NBA has like 30 something.
30.
However many go
I think
through.
it's exactly 30. What's the magic of the NFL? They have 32, and I think 16 go through 8 each conference, same as the NBA, but I think they're the league with the most teams.
Right. Well, I got 3 questions here for you, Ozza. First, does this concept take away from the regular season's importance?
So with the 10 teams, I believe it sort of adds to the importance, okay? This is the only argument for 10 teams. And unfortunately, it was Buzz Rothfield who did bring up this point. I don't say unfortunately; he's probably a nice bloke, but he brought.
Sorry.
He did bring up this sort of point where, and this is the only point I can hear for less dead rubber games. I think he said there was 36 dead rubber games last season. That's all. That's all it'll be implemented for, to make more games mean something, which hopefully means more people will go to the games. But I mean, let's be honest, let's just chuck 2 extra teams in the finals and we'll get 30,000 to each game. Yeah, that'll work.
Okay, so you touched on the financial side of things. So my next question, is this a cash grab by the NRL?
Yeah, to get butts in seats. But I mean,
I can't see any other underlying motive but a cash grab.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
For me, it's rewarding mediocrity. You're rewarding teams for not being good enough in the regular season. You're giving them another chance. Why are we giving them another chance?
Yeah.
Why are we going to give teams a 0.625% chance of playing finals football? Why? I'm going to use some jerseys behind me. Why are the Gold Coast Titans going to turn up against Dragons.
Dragons.
Dragons are first, Titans are 5th. Why are the Titans going to turn up and play their best team and play their hardest against the Dragons when it's round 19? They're going to field whatever team because they're still going to play finals football no matter what. They're
still going to win the comp, I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say this. This wildcard finals concept is awesome. It does have a lot of potential. It doesn't have potential in the current state of the game, and that's having 16 teams.
Yeah, exactly. I think you need to expand it to 20 teams at least for 10 teams to work. Sorry to sort of overtake this a bit. It's just this idea that's been buzzing in my head. I'd love to see this format with the 8 teams that we've got, and here's how it would sort of play out. Now, I know this might bring up a few questions a bit too long of a rest, but you have first and second who actually only play. They're already through to the preliminary final. Hear me out. You've got 5th versus 8th, 6th versus 7th, winner of 5th versus 8th versus 3rd or 4th, I forget how it works, then the other one versus the other team. The winner of that then goes on to the preliminary to face 1st and 2nd. Now, obviously, that means 2 weeks off, so I think that'd be a bit hard. Maybe even condense the finals down to 6 teams, minus a week off the finals, have 1st and 2nd automatically through to a preliminary final. They'll only have to miss 1 week then, have 3rd versus 6th, 4th versus 5th. And, it makes it harder to get into the finals. But, I mean, teams would have really earned it then. So I think, ideally, for this format to work, you'll either add more teams to the competition, which they are not going to do by 2020. We know that for sure. I think the meeting is 2021 or 2022 on expansion.
Yep.
And ideally, with 16 teams, it ideally works if there are only 6 teams making the finals.
Absolutely, guys. Nothing further from me there, man. I absolutely agree. We need to expand before we look at wildcard finals, before we look at any sort of expansion or major game changes. I think expansion should be our main focus as a game 100%. At the moment, because otherwise the A-League, AFL are going to continue to expand and sort of take over these other areas in Australia where they are dying for rugby league at the moment. They love rugby league in Perth. They're going to have an Origin game there next year.
That Donald Trump's attending, apparently.
Sorry?
Is that the game? I think Donald Trump's going to that game. Donald Trump's going to at least one Origin game. Yeah, because he's coming to Australia, and apparently that's one of the big events he's going to show up at.
Oh my God.
Apparently he's going to Origin. Oh, I'd love to be a fly on the wall.
Yeah, I mean, he is sort of a little bit orange himself, so I have to assume he's probably going to go for the Maroons because he is closer.
Trump's a good bloke. He's going to be on the Blues.
Yeah, I'll just say, guys, if the podcast is cut short, it's probably because Trump has launched some sort of missile at my house. Also, that's Kim Jong-un. We'll move on to the sixth tackle, guys. We've decided to run it, as I said at the start. We're going to go through and answer, in the theme of the podcast, 6 fan questions. First one is from Joshua Bentz. He wants to know, with Parramatta's free salary cap space as a result of releasing Corey Norman, what is some mid-year signings they should look to pursue? I've got 2 for them. I think the first one, I think the area they're lacking at the moment is a quality 80-minute hooker, or even just an experienced hooker in general. And I think Mitch Rain is going to fit that billet perfectly for them in 2019. I think AJ Brimson is almost confirmed to be at 14 now for the Titans. And I don't think Mitch Rain has a spot on the bench as a result of that. I think Mitch Rain gets very unsettled in Q Cup after he played a whole year of New South Wales Cup for the Panthers, came back to first grade. I don't think he's want to go back to reserve grade. I also know he has a very close relationship with Garth Brennan from their time in reserve grade at Panthers, and I honestly believe if Mitch Rain was to ask a release from, I think Garth would grant it, given he would have a first grade opportunity at the Eels. I think they're close enough for that request to be granted on a personal level as opposed to looking at it from an organisational standpoint. My other option is Manasi Fayenu from the Manly Sea Eagles. He comes off contract in 2019, the same time as Api Coruscant. Both great hookers, but we know who the Manly Sea Eagles are going to prioritise in terms of re-signing. When Fainu did a Q&A for my page, one of the questions was, if you could play for any other club, who would you play for? He said Parramatta, because that's where I live, that's my junior club, and that's who I used to support. 3 pretty big reasons for a young fella who's driving, by the way, to Manly every single day from that sort of area. 3 pretty big reasons to want to potentially switch clubs. I don't know if Manly would let him go mid-season, although I'm inclined to think they would, because they could just bring Trent Hodkinson into the 14 jersey. And then obviously that would enable them to focus on re-signing their star hooker, Api Coruscant. I know you've got a man in mind, and this man is from the New Zealand Warriors.
Yep, this man is Carl Lawton, former Gold Coast Titans player as well. Look, coming off contract, as well as Isaac Luke, a point you made to me off camera as well. Who are they going to re-sign? Isaac Luke or Carl Lawton? They'll be after Isaac Luke first. We have also got Tavunga and Roach coming. Not coming off contract. They are signed until I believe it's 2021, maybe. So there's not a lot of potential at the Warriors for Carl Lawton. He has had first grade experience before, I believe, mainly at the Titans a couple of years ago. Yep. Not a lot of experience, but experience nonetheless. So he wouldn't necessarily be someone that the Eels would be looking to play in the hooker role long term. However, he could be a placeholder for the Eels if they were to look to someone a bit further on and could, hold that position down for a season. However, I think, they've just uploaded. This is getting uploaded. Upgraded his contract from a developmental to a first grade contract. So I think Mahoney plays at hooker this year.
The young guns. Rugby league is a cruel game. The Parramatta Eels are only 1 injury away from desperately needing a hooker, because Will Smith isn't an 80-minute hooker. He's a bench utility, very versatile player. Case of Pritchard's released at the moment on personal grounds. and that realistically is one full-time hooker at the squad, Reid Marnie. I think they're only one decent injury off potentially pursuing your pick there. So a very good pick. Our next question is from David Cook. Which team will surprise a lot of people in 2019? I know you've spoken about this club in other podcasts and videos we've done.
I love talking about them, so that's fine.
So let's go again.
It is the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. Put your pitchforks down, please. Yes, I know they are favourites to come last, but hear me out on this one, guys. They showed great signs at the end of last season when they brought the likes of Lockie Lewis, Reece Martin in. They basically should have just swapped the first grade New South Wales Cup sides and they probably would have made the finals. Of course, being a little bit exaggerating there. And they've made good signings as well. Good young signings, likes of Meaney, who could be starting at fullback at the start of the season, could be. We are talking the likes as well as Christian Crichton, who I've backed before, from Penrith, who was never a star, never went above and beyond, but just did his job, did it well for Penrith. We've also got Corey Harawira-Nara coming from Penrith as well. Dylan Napa, it's good to see he won't miss any minutes. He will be hugely influential in that forward pack, especially with young guys like Harawira-Nara, like Reece Martin. We've got Raymond Faitala-Mariner in there as well. They've also got Jack Cogger, who probably won't play a lot of minutes, but let's just say Kieran Foran goes down with an injury. He's definitely he's a bit more reliable than someone completely inexperienced.
Yeah, he's capable. He's shown he's capable at the Knights, and he has that level of experience, which is obviously very important for a half.
Yeah, and for me, Jack Cogger is someone. You know how we say someone doesn't sign somewhere to play reserve grade or whatever. He's not necessarily that, but I don't think he signed with the Bulldogs to play reserve grade for long.
Well, I think he was actually promised the halfback spot when he signed, or the 5'8" spot, which that's what I mean. Not likely going to happen, but there is a healthy competition there for spots.
Exactly. So, not much more I can say on the Bulldogs. I've got them 9th and fighting for a spot in the finals in 2019. I really wanted to put them in that top 8, but I couldn't. But yeah, I've got the Bulldogs as my surprise package, finishing 9th.
I like it, guys. I'm going to put all eyes on me as I discuss this next one. Melbourne Storm are going to surprise a lot of people in 2019, but not in a good way. Not in a good way. This is the year we will see the Melbourne Storm out of the top 4, lower into the top 8. I don't think they'll be fighting for a final spot. I think they'll be comfortably in the top 8. Okay. But I don't see them achieving a top 4 finish, which as a Melbourne fan, you've got to be a little shocked about, considering you've been to the last 3 grand finals, won a minor premiership in that time, and finished top 4 all those other seasons, guys. Now, hear me out. Cameron Smith took over a lot of Cooper Cronk's role in terms of kicking from first receiver, passing from first receiver in 2018, and it was an area where he could contribute to the Storm in an effective way. With Billy Slater retired, Cameron Smith can no longer contribute in that aspect. He cannot go to fullback. He does not have the vision out the back that Billy Slater has. And we're not just talking about replacing any fullback here, guys. We're not even talking about replacing a fullback that's played 300 games of NRL. We're talking about replacing possibly the greatest fullback to ever play our game, if not, undoubtedly the greatest of the modern era.
Oh, yeah.
And I know there is that argument when Slater was out in 2016, Cameron Munster came in and, they looked good. They made the grand final. They lost to the Sharks, but they looked good all year. They still achieved a very high finish and played in the grand final. It's not a bad season. Yep. But that was Cameron Munster, guys. We now know who Cameron Munster is. He's on $1 million. He's one of the best halves in the game, if not probably the best 5'8" in the game. Probably only Luke Keary, I would say, is better. I just think with Smith getting on in his career, with Slater gone, with Cooper Cronk gone, even for the great Cameron Smith, I think it's too much to take on. And I honestly think Storm fans, you need to be prepared for a year where it's no longer going to be the Melbourne Storm. It's going to be a normal, good NRL team.
Yeah, just to interject for a second there, we saw Jonathan Thurston probably played a season too long. I mean, he'll probably even admit 2018, that was not the Jonathan Thurston we've grown to see in throughout his career. And that's the question that stuck in my mind with Cameron Smith. He signed this two-year deal. He said he may retire in 2019. However, I'm
already having thoughts.
Would this be that year too long? You know what I mean? Maybe. We haven't seen it yet from Cam, but we didn't think we'd see it from JT, but there you go. So maybe.
And we're talking about two of the greatest ever there. I mean, it's certainly a great example to draw on. Smith has said he'll talk to Bellamy before making that decision final. And, certainly I think Smith, of all players, would know when his time is up in our game. But yeah, guys, let me know what you think about those two predictions there. Our next question comes from Jacob Thompson. He wants to know the Queensland Maroons spine in 2019. Oliver, I'll go to you first for your selection.
Yep. So even if Kalen Ponga plays 5'8" for the Newcastle Knights, I've got him playing fullback for Queensland. Yes, Kevin Walters said wherever Greg Inglis plays for the Rabbitohs, he will play for Queensland. However, I do think he might start the season at fullback, but then they'll realise that's a big mistake just because he'll be injury prone. He might get injured or he just won't play well there and move him into a much more comfortable position in the centres. And I think GI might realise that as well. That's just what I'm going off here. Although I think he might have some disciplinary issues in 2019 on the field, I've got Cameron Munster playing for Queensland. That'll definitely help in Melbourne grooming him to take over Cameron Smith as the captain of the Melbourne Storm. Obviously, having a prominent role in a rep side that Cameron Smith played for so many years. Got Michael Morgan in there as well. And look, I've personally not got the Cowboys doing too well in 2019. I know a lot of people do. However, I've got them missing the 8. But I don't think Ben Hunt... the Dragons as a team will be performing well, but I don't think Ben Hunt will be having as good of an individual year as Michael Morgan. So I think Morgs just gets in there, and it's experience as well. And I don't think anyone can really top Andrew McCulloch in the hooker role. I had a question in a Q&A that I did a couple of nights ago saying what was my thoughts on Jake Friend. I said he'd probably almost be the best winger in the game if there just weren't so many bloody great wingers at the hookers at the what am I on? If there weren't so many great hookers in the game at the moment, and McCulloch's one of those guys. So.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that, but my spine is slightly different, guys, so we'll jump into mine. I've got Greg Inglis at fullback. I don't think he should be there, but from what we're hearing within the media, Kevin Walters has said wherever Greg Inglis plays for club, he will play for Queensland. Obviously, Wayne Bennett has confirmed when Greg wants to go back to fullback, that's where he'll play. So I think we will see Greg Inglis in the number 1 jersey, despite a lot of us not agreeing. Number 6, Cameron Munster. I touched on him earlier, how highly I rate him. Number 7, Michael Morgan. Because unlike Oliver, I have the Cowboys doing quite well. I had them closer to the top 4. I think the loss of Ben Barber is huge, but I still think they will be competing for a top 8 side. I think Michael Morgan takes that number 7 jersey over Daly Cherry Evans. I think Daly Cherry Evans will not have enough form to retain that jersey. I think the Manly Sea Eagles, by the time State of Origin rolls around, will be sitting 14th, 15th, 16th. I think they're going to be quite low on the ladder. I'm going to go on the record right now and say Manly will not win a game this year if the Trbojevic brothers are out. Throughout State of Origin, they will not win a game. If they don't get off to a flying start, they are in a lot of trouble. Michael Morgan, my number 7. Number 9, as you said, Andrew McCulloch. No one can really rival him. Possibly Jake Friend if he had a big career resurgence. We don't know what's going to happen there.
Probably not, though.
Unlikely.
Which is sad for Jake Friend.
Sorry?
Which is sad for Jake Friend because he is a really good player. But as I said, there's just so many bloody great hookers.
Great serve in the club, great defender, gets 50-plus tackles every game, which is great in Origin. But with Damien Cook on the other team, you need some sort of kicking game, some sort of spark, I suppose, out of dummy half, which I don't think Jake Friend provides as much for the Sydney Roosters anymore. Number 14, I know that's not a part of the spine, but I think Kalen Ponga fits in there, guys. I think Ben Hunt misses out. I think after Kalen Ponga's Game 2 State of Origin, he was guaranteed this jersey come game 3, only he did succumb to, I believe, a hamstring injury, which then opened the door for Ben Hunt to obviously return to the State of Origin arena. So again, guys, 1 GI, 6 Munster, 7 Morgan, 9 McCullough. I think Ponga's on the bench. I think Hunt and Daly Cherry Evans miss out. Our fourth question now, guys, comes from Jed Williams, and we're going to talk Joel William. My apologies there. I have very terrible handwriting. It comes in the form of the North Queensland Cowboys. Jake Clifford or Tamari Martin for number 6 alongside Michael Morgan in 2019.
2 weeks ago, you asked me this question, and I say Tamari Martin, but I'm going with Jake Clifford now. Has been performing very good in the trials. And the big thing against Martin for me is that, and I've said it before, but he has come out publicly and said, this halves combination isn't clicking between me and Michael Morgan at the moment. And Michael Morgan's not the man that is going to get dropped. It is Tamari Martin, unfortunately. So
that's just facts.
Yeah, I think he's going to come off the bench. I think Jake Clifford's starting sort of to pass the question over to you for your answer. I believe you think that Martin's better use is off the bench as well. I believe you've told me that before. So if you want to expand a bit on that, I guess.
Yeah. I think there's 2 main options for the Cowboys in the number 14 jersey. It's Kurt Baptiste, and that depends on whether Drake Granville continues to be an 80-minute hooker. His stats were very far down in 2018.
Yep.
Or it's Tamari Martin, who you can play at centre, hooker, halfback, 5'8", fullback. Certainly, if we're looking for versatility there and a little bit extra creativity and spark, I think you go with Tamari Martin, especially with such an already formidable and strong forward pack there. I think Jake Clifford will be the number 6 for the Cowboys. I think his experience with Jonathan Thurston towards the end of 2018 cannot be overstated. Paul Green had a very bad year as a coach. But he's not a bad coach. He had a bad year, and he's definitely smart enough to realize when to partner a kid with possibly the greatest halfback of all time. He did that with Jake Clifford. And I've got another little note here, guys, that I must touch on. Last year in the State of Origin under-20s, whilst representing the Queensland Maroons, Jake Clifford outplayed AJ Brimson majorly. I'm not kidding. He hadn't made his NRL debut there yet, and AJ was playing pretty regular NRL at that stage. And Clifford had 3 try assists, a try himself maybe, certainly a few line break assists. He was on fire. He outplayed AJ Brimson, who we all know is a future star. So I certainly think that, given he performed so well in an Origin arena where he's surrounded with a great forward pack, obviously, and other similarly great players, I think we've only got to look at the Cowboys roster. It's a very good roster. He's going to have a very good halfback outside of him in Michael Morgan. I think he's only going to get better, so I'm inclined to go with Jake Clifford there, guys. We'll move to our 5th question. Care Christian wants to know our Rookie of the Year. I'll go to you first there, Ozza.
Yep. I am officially announcing I'm going to dust off the boots. I've been signed to a development contract by the Gold Coast Titans, and I guarantee right now I will win Rookie of the Year. No. Corey Allen. I mean, come on. I mean...
That's what you'll win.
Oh. That's it. I'm hopping off.
Oh, no. The Set of 6 podcast is done.
Done. Final episode. Breaking news. No, I'm going with Corey Allen here. I think it's actually probably better for Corey Allen in this season if Greg Inglis starts at fullback for the Rabbitohs, because I know this is going to sound bad, but I think if he plays fullback for the Rabbitohs, he'll be injured within the first 3 rounds, probably a season ender, because his body just can't take playing in that position anymore. I know that you want to play there, Greg. I know it's one of the more superstar positions, but, mate, you're better used in the centres, I think, in 2019. And even with that, you'll have Alex Johnson probably at fullback, but... I think Corey Allen eventually gets a chance. If Greg Inglis is fit, he will be playing Origin in 2019. So Corey Allen will come into the squad then. As we said before, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And we know it's probably not going to be round 1, thanks a lot, Wayne Bennett. But I mean, as I said before, there's still 24 other rounds. So he can hop in there and, hopefully cement his spot in the side. And it's going to be hard for him, no doubt. But just look at what he did in the Charity Shield on the wing, with his primary position at fullback. So, I mean, the sky's the limit for this guy. And look, let's be honest, if he doesn't win Rookie of the Year this year, if he doesn't play many games this year, he has 100% been signed to replace Greg Inglis once he retires.
Yeah,
so once Greg Inglis retires, I believe it's the end of next year, he's announced he's going to retire. Corey Allen's in the side then. So, I mean, yeah, and I think he does debut and have a few games under his belt before then. So I'm going for him for Rookie of the Year this year. And to repay me, when he does get Rookie of the Year, he's going to come onto my page. Well, he better come onto my page, otherwise I won't be happy. So there we go. Yeah, a bit of breaking news there.
You got to be careful with Corey. I had him lined up for a Q&A a few times now, but he is a very busy man. I liked one point you brought up, Greg Inglis, his knee, not 100%. I'd like to flash everyone back. Let's go. 2017, round 1, Greg Inglis' knee. He's a little bit sore that preseason. He plays round 1 at fullback. He does his ACL.
I think, did he do it scoring a try? Something
he wasn't right. They didn't take him off. Everyone was going, this is madness. What is Greg Inglis doing on the field? They put a kick through, he scored, and that was his season done.
Yep, thanks, Greg.
I think Greg Inglis himself needs to realise, well, the last time I wasn't feeling 100%, I did my ACL. Maybe it is best we give the Australian Prime Minister 13, the Queensland Under-20s representative, the guy who's ticked every single box in the lower grades, a chance.
Yeah, and in 2017, when he did have that one game, sorry to interrupt again, at fullback, the Rabbitohs didn't make the top 8 in 2017. As soon as they move him to the centres, what happens? They finish in the top 4 in 2018. So, I don't know. I'm not saying it's because of that, but it definitely would have helped.
Yeah, no doubt. I think there were other contributing factors there as well, including Damien Cook, Burgess Boys, etc. But certainly you do raise a good point there. My pick, I chose him a couple of weeks ago. Adam Keighran. Now, I think the reason I think Adam Keighran is a good chance to win this, guys, is because Blake Green is typically a complementary half. What I mean by that is when Blake Green is at clubs, we look at his previous partners, Cooper Cronk, Daly Cherry-Evans, Shaun Johnson. None of those three names you go, oh, Blake Green is the main man. He's always been a complementary half, and from what I've seen from Adam Keighran, certainly in the trial games, he's a game-controlling half. So I do think there'll be an adjustment period. I don't think the Warriors will make top 8 this year, but I certainly do think there is some potential in that combination there. It's a risky choice, but look, he's a goal kicker. He's got that going for him. I don't think there's a huge expectation for the fans for the Warriors to continue within the top 8, given they lost Shaun Johnson. But there's also that argument that a lot of Warriors fans have that they think Shaun Johnson's overrated and he only turns up for certain games throughout the year. Adam Keighran knows he needs to turn up for every game this year, Ozza. He can't afford to turn up and have a couple weeks off and maybe coast like Shaun Johnson has, I suppose, allegedly done via the Warriors fans in the past. Because as you touched on earlier, Chanel Harris-Tavita is biting at his at his ankles. He's right there also. So I think Adam Keighran, because there's a little bit of expectation. Like I said, there is, if he doesn't play good, there's every chance he'll be dropped completely, and CHT will get his chance. But most importantly, I think his game complements Blake Green's game very, very well. Our last question, guys, is from Gus Maynard. He wants to know, could a Pacific team work in the NRL, which is made up of PNG, Fiji, Samoa, and Tonga? I'm going to say yes, it could work, and short term, it would be good because we'd be expanding the game in an easy way. But there's consequences to that easy method because long term, this is going to bring up some huge issues, Ozza. Where do they play? What is considered their home? What if the team starts being made up of predominantly Fijians? Do the PNG, do they still support the team? What if there's no Samoan players in the team for a year? Are the Samoans interested in supporting that team?
Are they going to rotate where they play at home each week? Are they going to go from Samoa to Tonga to PNG to Fiji?
How does the NRL fund that travel? There's so many question marks over this. And I'm sure you agree with something I've said before, guys. We're looking for a fix, just like that for expansion. I always refer to it, guys. I call it the light bulb fix, where you put a switch down and, That's expansion done.
Yeah.
And it's not that easy, guys. It's going to take years and years and years and probably more years for us to expand to Papua New Guinea, Fiji, Samoa, and Tonga. Realistically, I don't think we'll ever successfully expand into all 4 of those countries.
No way.
I think Fiji is a chance and Papua New Guinea are a chance, but I don't think they're based out of their home countries. I think they're based maybe in Ipswich, maybe let's go South Australia.
Funny you should say that. A friend of mine that I know called Oliver, he's got a couple of videos that have come out on PNG and Fiji, a part of the NRL expansion candidate series. So you should go and check those out for a bit more detail. I'm sorry I had to do it.
No, they're great videos, man. I do really enjoy them.
I just had to do it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Bit up myself, but oh well.
They're on Facebook and YouTube. So, and obviously, if you're wondering what those links are, guys, just have a little look that way there.
So anyway, to put it a bit more on topic as well, can we stop talking about expanding overseas for a minute? Let's get there eventually. We need to expand within the country first. We shouldn't be concerned overseas at the moment. I keep banging this home. We need a team in Perth, predominantly. If anywhere other than Perth is selected for the next expansion period, I'm thinking, what in the hell are you doing, NRL? Perth needs a team. The team would survive in Perth.
Yeah.
There's a big market there. All the signs are pointing to yes. We know that it didn't work, 20, 25 years ago, but I mean, now it would work. And I'll tell you what, if it didn't, it would still have a much better chance than a Pacific Islander team made up of 4 different countries. I'll tell you that. In the next round of expansion, so as I said, I think they might be talking about it 2021, 2022, the NRL are meeting about expansions specifically, which, let's be honest, they are going to say yes. If they say no, then that would be catastrophic. They are going to say yes. The team needs to be in Perth, or at least in Australia. Adelaide maybe, but I'm thinking Perth more. Then maybe the second round of expansion, we look probably not even to overseas, and we probably look more to maybe another Queensland team, or maybe a team in Adelaide or Cairns, Tasmania. Why not throw them in there? We're not going to get a Papua New Guinean or a Fijian side for a while. As a matter of fact, from my research, I guess I'm going to answer it quickly without spoiling too much from the Fijian one. A Fiji team is just not sustainable in the NRL. A Papua New Guinea team maybe could be made to work, but as I said, not yet. Next round of expansion, look, I can almost guarantee that the NRL will say yes. If not, that'll be the dumbest thing in the world. There should be a new expansion team entering the NRL in 2023, and at the moment, I'm saying that team is Perth.
Well, you know what, Oliver, I can't argue, given the competition's name is the National Rugby League, not International Rugby League. Guys, that is going to wrap up the Set of Six podcast. Quick reminder, guys, clocks in almost every single NRL team, so let us know in the comments who you support, and we'll get a clock out to you ASAP. We'll select that winner before next week's podcast. In fact, I might even announce it at the start of next week, guys. Thank you very much for joining us for what installment, I don't know.
I think it's fourth, maybe.
4th or 5th.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. As always, we want to hear your thoughts and discussion on everything we discussed tonight, guys. We're available on all our social media links, which are right above us. From myself, thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed. And over to you, Ozza, to say goodbye.
Yeah, see you later, guys. Thank you for tuning in.